Well, if I'd have closed my remaining one good eye, I would have thought they were twice the number up here. You really filled this sanctuary with such beautiful sound. Thank you. We follow that which Brian has read with a reading now from the Gospels. This from the Gospel of Matthew, a text that's very familiar. We've heard this time and time again, but it has been so easy for us time and time and time again to forget it. So here we are again. Jesus, as he's addressing his disciples toward the beginning of his ministry with them, assembles them, offers the Beatitudes. Blessed are, blessed are, blessed are, blessed are. Then he comes as he looks to them, and he says, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid, nor do men light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but rather on a stand, and it gives light to all. Your light shall shine before men and women, people, that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. They heard the words. The challenge was, can they live up to the expectations of what Jesus identified them to be? The title of this morning's sermon is Identity Theft, because it's hard to hang on to who we are, who we've been called to be. Being just 4 years old, our grandson Connor is just a little boy. But not in his eyes. Connor is bold and confident. This summer, as Patty and I were with him at one of the playgrounds, negotiate these crossbars overhead, and then you have to reach out one like this and then cross like this. But because he's just a little, maybe an inch or two too short, he's got the first one okay, and then it's like, reaching to that second one. Time and time and time again he fell. Boom, boom, time after time after time. He did this for 10 or 15 minutes. And we just stood there and watched him, didn't say anything. Finally, he just gets up the last time, brushes himself off, walks away. He's Mighty Mouse. He might be short, but he's Mighty Mouse. He's bold, and he's daring, and he's confident. Until he isn't. That very same day, earlier in the evening, that same day, we hear this screech coming from the bathroom. Had Connor fallen off the step stool while brushing his teeth? No. Had Connor burned his hands by turning the hot water on? No. The reason for Connor's hysterics was crawling across the corner on a kitchen cabinet. Now, you might think it was a ginormous hairy-legged spider. No. It was a tiny, 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 tiny little red ant. Tiny. So we go in and say, Connor, what? Gah! Grandpa, squish it! A tiny little red ant had stolen Connor's identity. In that moment, he was not Mighty Mouse. Most of us are like Connor. We feel pretty confident about who we are until something scary crawls into our lives. Brian, as he was reading Psalm 44, described some of that to us. The psalm begins with a description of Israel in the good times. The psalmist is confident, so much so, well, listen, I'll read again what Brian shared earlier. With the psalmist looking to the heavens, God, we know what you have done for us. Through generations of time, we faced and defeated enemy armies. It wasn't just our brave soldiers or our superior weapons which prevailed. Our victories were because of your watchful eyes, your mighty hand. God has ordained our victories, and we will give thanks forever. That's a powerful beginning to Psalm 44. It almost sounds like he could have authored the words of the Allstate commercial we've seen time and time again. You're in good hands with Allstate. Only in this case, you're in good hands with God. They had that kind of confidence. By the time the psalm concludes, and Brian read from those concluding verses a moment ago, confidence is just a memory. God's watchful eye is no longer so watchful. Here again, what we heard just a minute ago. God, where are you? Wake up. We feel like grains of sand in the desert, lost and forgotten. Where are you? This is the same person who was Mighty Mouse a minute ago. Well, what did happen? And this psalm is a digest of a period of time. And this part of the digest is the memory when Israel fought and lost a war, a big one. They lost a huge percentage of their army. Their towns and cities were devastated and left desolate. So in this memory, in one moment, Israel is Mighty Mouse. In the next, Israel are there mice on the run. Defeat, disappointment, fear, shock, despair had stolen their identity. We know it. You've been there. I've been there. That's our humanity. That's life. Psalm 44 is a beautiful digest of your life and mine. In one moment, we are confident, we know who we are, we know who God is, and we're charging forward. And the next moment, not so much so. For years, Patty and I, mostly Patty, have exchanged correspondence with a man, Darrell, who still is in prison and has served 10 years in prison for a crime he committed while addicted to drugs. A couple of years ago, he sent us this really spectacularly beautiful wooden handcrafted bowl that he made in the prison's woodworking shop. The letter accompanying it, you could feel that even though he's behind prison bars, that he was finding his worth again as a human being. The bowl of his life was beginning to fill up again. We got a letter just a couple of weeks back. Somebody has turned his bowl upside down, and it felt empty. Let me read you an excerpt from his letter. Normally he writes just to Patty because Patty is the communicator. I'm a PS every now and then. She writes, he answers her, and really good at that. This letter he directed, Dear Patty and Gary. And he was very pointed to ask my counsel in this letter. This is, among other things, what he had to share. Every day in prison, there's a bunch of junk you have to deal with. I'm beginning to question the worth of anything I say or do. And by the way, that anything I say or do. When he felt like his bowl was beginning to fill up, what was helping to fill that up was claiming a new identity for himself. He found that by trying to help inmates, fellow inmates, especially newer ones and younger ones coming into the system, to help them know that their life's not over. I know you're behind prison bars, but you know what? You're more than those prison bars. You're more than a person who's violated the law. And so he challenges and charges them to get involved, to do what he did in going to a woodworking shop or a mechanic shop or the library and read books or attend discussion groups where you can dialogue around books and feelings. Good man, good efforts. His new identity had been discovered, and that's 2 years ago, and his bowl was so full. But, having all said that now, we're back to his letter. I'm beginning to question the worth of anything I say or do. I used to feel confident, past tense. I used to feel confident that I was making a difference. Now I'm not so sure. Most in here don't want advice and laugh at my efforts. I understand that as a preacher, you point to God as the answer. But my purpose is not to lead people to Jesus. It's to show that everyone who has ever lived has had to deal with darkness, and many have overcome it. But now, even I seem to be running out of answers and energy. I'd appreciate any help, any wisdom you might toss my way. Right now, my answers are in short supply. Daryl's trying his darndest to hang on to his identity, and there are a ton of voices trying to steal it. Have any of you read this wonderful little book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl? It's a great book. If you ever question who you are and the worth of who you are and what life is all about and should I go on or whatever, get it and read it. It's really good. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl, a doctor of psychiatry, out of Vienna in Austria. When the German armies rolled in to Austria, he and his family were paraded off to concentration camps. He's the only one of his family to survive. Only 1 out of 28 did. He did. In this book, he's not just well-credentialed academically, he's well-credentialed in life experience. I can't begin to do justice to all of what's in the book, but an honest, quick digest summary, in just a few words, of this book would be this: find meaning in life. Make that your identity. Find meaning in life and make that your identity. Now, finding that meaning can come accidentally. You kind of stumble into it. Or it might be the result of a deliberate search. That part doesn't matter. What does matter is choosing to remain loyal to the meaning we discovered. That does matter. There will be obstacles. Daryl's letter is one easy example. He discovered this new meaning even behind prison bars. He was growing, his life's bowl was filling up, and then boom, he ran into the obstacles of naysayers and cynics and those who laughed at his efforts and thought, silly old man. There will be obstacles when we discover our identity. There will be obstacles to hanging on to that identity. Our psalmist faced defeat and discouragement, psalm after psalm. One of the reasons all of us love the Psalms so much, and the book of Psalms is the most popular book in the Bible. You probably knew that. The book of Psalms is the most popular book in the Bible. Why? Because it's real. It doesn't disguise discouragement, pain, despair. It's real. It's confessional of what it means to be a human being. The psalmists, all of them, ours included from Psalm 44, faced defeat and discouragement. Moses never made it to the promised land. Micah, Jeremiah, Isaiah, and the other great social justice prophets were considered thorns in the flesh, needing to, disappear. Jesus died on a cross. You talk about obstacles. But besides the obstacles, which they all held in common, what else did they have in common? They overcame. Every single one of them overcame. Why? Because they chose to keep their identity. That identity was found in the meaning that they had claimed and discovered about their life. That's how they overcame. Those of us of faith are not spared from life's challenges, obstacles. We are not. But we can and we will overcome when we hang on to the meaning we have found in, and we hang on to that. Viktor Frankl overcame the despair by hanging on to his identity even when the light that he felt and identified himself to be, even when that light within him was flickering. Darrell is going to overcome his discouragement. Why? Because in reading his letter, it's obvious he wants to hang on to his newly claimed identity. I'm a light. I want to be a light. He's going to hang on, and he's going to overcome because of that determination. I found meaning, and I'm going to hang on to it. Laugh, belittle, demean, I don't care. You won't identify me. I identify me. God has we of the faith say, God has identified. Jesus looked to us and said at the beginning of their ministry, you are a light. You are the salt of the earth. When we dare to claim that, we dare to believe it, we can hang on, and we can and we will overcome. Two good things, at least two important good things will come when we dare to do that. The world will find it harder to steal our identity. Again, I don't care what you say. I don't care how you belittle my efforts or laugh at my efforts. I am choosing to be who I am. You will not steal who I am. Secondly, we will find the strength of a mighty mouse to grab a hold of these challenging crossbars in life, and we will overcome. I want to close with a more lighthearted but poignant story, true story, authored by Robert Fulghum in his book. The book, all I ever wanted to know I learned in kindergarten. That's almost a part 2 Bible for me. I love that. The author, Robert Fulghum, had multiple careers in the business world, a school teacher, ordained a UCC minister, on and on we can go. And he writes, and he authored 3 or 4 books. In this particular one, he authored a memory of being at home in Seattle. Picture yourself in a a lush neighborhood. That's easy to picture if you live in Seattle with all the rain they get. His yard is full of grass and trees, and he had a lot of trees. Among other things, he loves leaves. He loves nature. And then one day, as he's sitting comfortably in his reclining chair in the living room, a knock on the door. He gets up, opens the door, and here's where I pick up what he has to say. I opened the door to discover a small boy who hands me a notepad. Hello, my name is Donnie. I'll rake your leaves for $1. I'm deaf, but I can read. You can write your answer on my notepad. Oh, I paused, caught my breath, and I said to myself, but I love my leaves. I love them on the tree. I love them as they fall and help to mulch my lawn. I love the statement they make about nature and the statement they make about me being a lover of nature. Where in the order of my love of leaves is Donnie? Does it make a difference to me that Donnie is deaf and young and innocent? I make a decision. Donnie gets to rake the leaves, and I get to feel good that I listened to myself. Catch that? And I get to feel good because I listened to myself. He has an identity. He had competing voices challenging that identity. You're a nature lover. You love those leaves. Are you going to let this little boy come in and steal your leaves? He heard all these competing voices, but then he claimed himself, who he knew himself to be, as wanting to be a light shining in the darkness, or salt of the earth. Donnie, rake the leaves. Darrell will find his bowl full again because he's remembering who he wants to be. Yeah, he's running into obstacles, but he knows who he wants to be. God has given us our identity, Jesus, the Word of God, incarnate in Jesus. You are light of the world. You are salt of the earth. When we claim that, our lights might dim and flicker. They will. Circumstances and obstacles will cause that. But it won't extinguish the light. That is us. Because you and I are going to hang on to who God said we are. It'll make a difference for you and for me. And it'll make a difference for everybody around us. We will overcome, and we will help them overcome. That's what God does. And we're going to sing together now, and as we do that, we're going to sing the hymn, We Shall Overcome. Think about it. Think about the lyrics we're singing, because it applies across the board, not just for social justice issues. It does speak to that. But life struggles we have, whatever it might be. The lyrics of this song speak the gospel to us because we are lights, we are salt of the earth, and we're hanging on to that identity. We're not going to let the world steal it. Let's sing together, We Shall Overcome.